Smersh is the official murder organisation of the Soviet government. It operates both at home and abroad, and in 1955 it employed a total of 40,000 men and women. Smersh is a contraction of Smert Spionam, which means death to spies. It's a name used only among its staff and among Soviet officials. No sane member of the public would dream of allowing the word to pass his lips. The headquarters of Smersh is a very large and ugly modern building on the Starenka Ulitsa. It is number 13 on this wide, dull street, and pedestrians keep their eyes to the ground as they pass the two sentries with submachine guns who stand on either side of the broad steps leading up to the big iron double door. If they remember in time, or can do so inconspicuously, they cross the street, pass by on the other side. The direction of Smersh is carried out from the second floor. The most important room on the second floor is a very large, light room painted in the pale olive green that is the common denominator of government offices all over the world. Opposite the soundproof door, two wide windows look over the courtyard at the back of the building. The floor is close-fitted with a colourful Caucasian carpet of the finest quality. Across the far left-hand corner of the room stands a massive oak desk. The top of the desk is covered with red velvet under a thick sheet of plate glass. On the left side of the desk are in and out baskets, and on the right, 4 telephones. From the centre of the desk, to form a T with it, a conference table stretches diagonally out across the room. 8 straight-backed red leather chairs are drawn up to it. This table is also covered with red velvet, but without protective glass. Ashtrays are on the table, and 2 heavy carafes of water with glasses. On the walls are 4 large pictures in gold frames. In 1955, these were a portrait of Stalin over the door, one of Lenin between the 2 windows, and facing each other on the other 2 walls, portraits of Bulganin, and where, until July the 13th, 1954, a portrait of Beria had hung, a portrait of Army General Ivan Alexandrovich Serov, Chief of the Committee of State Security. On the left-hand wall, under the portrait of Bulganin, stands a large televisor, or TV set, in a handsome polished oak cabinet. Concealed in this is a tape recorder which can be switched on from the desk. The microphone for the recorder stretches under the whole area of the conference table, and its leads are concealed in the legs of the table. Next to the televisor is a small door leading into a personal lavatory and washroom, and into a small projection room for showing secret films. Under the portrait of General Serov is a bookcase containing, on the top shelves, the works of Marx, Engels, Lenin and Stalin, and more accessibly books in all languages on espionage, counter-espionage, police methods and criminology. Next to the bookcase, against the wall, stands a long, narrow table on which are a dozen large leather-bound albums with dates stamped in gold on the covers. These contain photographs of Soviet citizens and foreigners who have been assassinated by Smersh. About the time Grant was coming in to land at Tushino Airport, just before 11:30 at night, a tough-looking, thick-set man of about 50 was standing at this table leafing through the volume for 1954. The head of Smersh, Colonel General Gubozar Boyzhikov, known in the buildings as G, was dressed in a neat khaki tunic with a high collar, dark blue cavalry trousers with 2 thin red stripes down the sides. The trousers ended in riding boots of soft, highly polished black leather. On the breast of the tunic were 3 rows of medal ribbons, 2 orders of Lenin, Order of Suvorov, Order of Alexander Nevsky, Order of the Red Banner, 2 orders of the Red Star, and 20 years' service medal, and medals for the defence of Moscow and the capture of Berlin. At the tail of these came the rose pink and grey ribbon of the British CBE, and the claret and white ribbon of the American Medal for Merit. Above the ribbons hung the gold star of a hero of the Soviet Union. Above the high collar of the tunic, the face was narrow and sharp. There were flabby pouches under the eyes, which were round and brown and protruded like polished marbles below thick black brows. The skull was shaven clean, and the tight white skin glittered in the light of the central chandelier. The mouth was broad and grim above a deftly cleft chin. It was a hard, unyielding face of formidable authority. One of the telephones on the desk buzzed softly. The man walked with tight and precise steps to his tall chair behind the desk. He sat down, picked up the receiver of the telephone marked in white with the letters VCH. These letters are short Visokachastiti, or high frequency. Only some 50 supreme officials are connected to the VCH. And all are ministers of state or heads of selected departments. It's served by a small exchange in the Kremlin, operated by professional security officers. Even they cannot overhear conversations on it, but every word spoken over its lines is automatically recorded. Yes? Serov speaking. What action has been taken since the meeting of the Presidium this morning? I have a meeting here in a few minutes' time, Comrade General. RUMID, GRU and of course MGB. After that, if action is agreed, I shall have a meeting with my head of operations and the head of plans. In case liquidation is decided upon, I've taken the precaution of bringing the necessary operative to Moscow. This time I shall myself supervise the preparations. We do not want another Koklov affair. The devil knows we don't. Telephone me after the first meeting. I wish to report to the Presidium tomorrow morning. Certainly, Comrade General. General G put the receiver back, pressed a bell under his desk. At the same time, he switched on the wire recorder. His ADC and MGB captain came in. Have they arrived? Yes, Comrade General. Bring them in. In a few minutes, 6 men, 5 of them in uniform, filed in through the door, and with hardly a glance at the man behind the desk, took their places at the conference table. They were 3 senior officers, heads of their departments, and each was accompanied by an ADC. In the Soviet Union, no man goes alone to a conference. For his own protection, and for the reassurance of his department, he invariably takes a witness so that his department can have independent versions of what went on at the conference, and above all, of what was said on its behalf. This is important in case there is a subsequent investigation. No notes are taken at the conference, and decisions are passed back to departments by word of mouth. On the far side of the table sat Lieutenant General Slavin, head of the GRU, the intelligence department of the General Staff of the Army, with a full colonel beside him. At the end of the table sat Lieutenant General Vodovishensky of RUMID, the intelligence department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, with a middle-aged man in plain clothes. With his back to the door sat Colonel of State Security Nikitin, head of intelligence for the MGB, the Soviet Secret Service, with a major at his side. Good evening, comrades. A polite and careful murmur came from the 3 senior officers. Each one knew, and thought he was the only one to know, that the room was wired for sound, and each one, without telling his ADC, had decided to utter the bare minimum of words consonant with good discipline and the needs of the state. Let us smoke. General G took out a packet of Moskva Volga cigarettes and lit one with an American Zippo lighter. There was a clicking of lighters round the table. General G pinched the long cardboard tube of his cigarette so that it was almost flat and put it between his teeth on the right side of his mouth. He stretched his lips back from his teeth and started talking in short, clipped sentences. They came out with something of a hiss between the teeth and the up-tilted cigarette. Comrades, we meet under instructions from Comrade General Serov. General Serov, on behalf of the Presidium, has ordered me to make known to you certain matters of state policy. We are then to confer and recommend a course of action which will be in line with this policy and assist it. We have to reach our decision quickly, but our decision will be of supreme importance to the state. It will therefore have to be a correct decision. General G paused to allow the significance of his words time to sink in. One by one, he slowly examined the faces of the 3 senior officers at the table. Their eyes looked stolidly back at him. Inside, these extremely important men were perturbed. They were about to look through the furnace door. They were about to learn a state secret, the knowledge of which might one day have most dangerous consequences for them. Sitting in the quiet room, they felt bathed in the dreadful incandescence that shines out from the centre of all power in the Soviet Union, the High Presidium. The final ash fell off the end of General G's cigarette onto his tunic. He brushed it off and threw the cardboard butt into the basket for secret waste behind his desk. He lit another cigarette and spoke through it. Our recommendation concerns a conspicuous act of terrorism to be carried out in enemy territory within 3 months. 6 pairs of expressionless eyes stared at the head of Smash, waiting. Comrades, General G leant back in his chair, and his voice became expository. The foreign policy of the USSR has entered a new phase. Formerly it was a hard policy, a policy that allowed himself the joke of Stalin's name of steel. This policy, effective as it was, built up tensions in the West, notably in America, which were becoming dangerous. The Americans are unpredictable people. They are hysterical. The reports of our intelligence began to indicate that we were pushing America to the brink of an undeclared atomic attack on the USSR. You have read these reports, and you know what I say is true. We do not want such a war. If there is to be a war, it is we who will choose the time. Certain powerful Americans, notably the Pentagon Group, led by Admiral Radford, were helped in their firebrand schemes by the very successes of our hard policy, so it was decided that the time had come to change our methods, while maintaining our aims. A new policy was created, the hard-soft policy. Geneva was the beginning of this policy. We were soft. China threatens Quemoy and Matsu. We are hard. We open our frontiers to a lot of newspaper men and actors and artists. Although we know many of them to be spies, our leaders laugh and make jokes at receptions in Moscow. In the middle of the jokes, we drop the biggest test bomb of all time. Comrades Bulganin and Khrushchev and Comrade General Serov. General G carefully included the names for the ears of the tape recorder. Visit India and the East and blackguard the English. When they get back, they have friendly discussions with the British ambassador about their forthcoming goodwill visit to London. And so it goes on, the stick, and then the carrot, the smile, and then the frown. And the West is confused. Tensions are relaxed before they have time to harden. The reactions of our enemies are clumsy, their strategy disorganized. Meanwhile, the common people laugh at our jokes, cheer our football teams, and slobber with delight when we release a few prisoners of war whom we wish to feed no longer. There were smiles of pleasure and pride around the table. What a brilliant policy! What fools we are making of them in the West! At the same time, continued General G, himself smiling thinly at the pleasure he had caused, we continue to forge everywhere stealthily ahead. Revolution in Morocco, arms to Egypt, friendship with Yugoslavia, trouble in Cyprus, riots in Turkey, strikes in England, great political gains in France. There's no front in the world on which we are not quietly advancing. General G saw the eyes shining greedily around the table. The men were softened up. Now it was time to be hard. Now it was time for them to feel the new policy on themselves. The intelligence services would also have to pull their weight in this great game that was being played on their behalf. Smoothly, General G leaned forward. He planted his right elbow on the desk and raised his fist in the air. But, comrades, his voice was soft, where has there been failure in carrying out the state policy of the USSR? Who has all along been soft when we wished to be hard? Who has suffered defeats while victory was going to all other departments of the state? Who, with its stupid blunders, has made the Soviet Union look foolish and weak throughout the world? Who?" The voice had risen, almost to a scream. General G thought how well he was delivering the denunciation demanded by the Presidium, how splendid it would sound when the tape was played back to Serov. He glared down the conference table at the pale, expectant faces. General G's fist crashed forward onto the desk. "The whole intelligence apparatus of the Soviet Union, comrades!" The voice was now a furious bellow. "It is we who are sluggards, the saboteurs, the traitors. It is we who are failing the Soviet Union in its great and glorious struggle. We—" His arms swept around the room. "All of us!" The voice came back to normal, became reasonable. "Comrades, look at the record. Sukin Sin," he allowed himself the peasant obscenity, "son of a bitch. Look at the record. First we lose Guzenko, and the whole of the Canadian apparat and the scientist Fuchs, and then the American apparat is cleaned up, and then we lose men like Tokayev. Then comes the scandalous Koklov affair, which did great damage to our country, then Petrov and his wife in Australia, a bungled business if ever there was one. The list is endless. Defeat after defeat, and the devil knows I have not mentioned the half of it." General G paused, and he continued in his softest voice. "Comrades, I have to tell you that unless tonight we make a recommendation for a great intelligence victory, and unless we act correctly on that recommendation, if it is approved, then there will be trouble." General G sought for a final phrase to convey the threat without defining it. He found it. "There will be—" He paused and looked with artificial mildness down the table. "Displeasure